Hi, and welcome back to Farming Nature's Way. Today, Todd and I are cutting down beef fat to make tallow. And at this time, he has taken the fat that we got off of a steer that we had butchered, and he is basically removing any of the meat that's on the fat. What you want to do, just to show you here, some that we cut off. When you're trimming this off, make sure you get the meat off. If you don't, that flavor will go into your fat. So you want to clean all that off. The fat is still frozen, and it makes it easier to clean off that way. Todd is wearing a couple pair of gloves to help with blisters because it's a lot of cutting. So he's cleaning it off. Now we are using a meat grinder in order to break the fat down even more, and it will render faster. If you don't have a meat grinder, maybe you have a grinder on a KitchenAid, that would work. And if you don't have any type of grinder, you could always just take and cut the fat up into like 1-inch squares. You don't want to throw huge pieces into a slow cooker or into the oven because it will take a very long time for it to render down. Todd is showing you some pieces there. So just an example of the size that you would want to use. So he's just taking and sliding that knife down in order to get rid of any meat that's on the fat. We use this tallow as an excellent source of fat. It's very high in heat tolerance. It can take up to, I believe it's 500 degrees. So if you're using it for French fries or for frying, it's fine. It doesn't break down, unlike your seed oils. If you do not buy your beef in bulk, where you're lucky enough to say, hey, I want all my fat so I can render it down to tallow, a lot of butchers, you could always go to your local butcher and see if you can buy some, just buy the fat. I know our local butcher, he will provide fat, and all they do is ask for a donation because they have so much of it. You could also do the same thing with pig fat if you want to use lard. We render both the beef and the pig fat. So now he's just going to make the chunks small enough to fit into the hopper of the grinder. And again, we do this way because it renders down so much faster because of the smaller pieces. Okay, so everything has been ground that we had, and there's some extra there in the bowl. As this melts down, and it'll melt down quickly, I'll be able to add what's left in that bowl into here. And then I'll show you the progress as we go along and how I filter it out, get it into quart jars. I do want to talk a little bit about cleanup. You can see we did set down paper and how important that is for your surface you're working on. It makes it so much easier to clean up. But your cutting board, your knives, the leftovers in your grinder, if you use a grinder, or in a bowl, use a paper towel to get off the majority of what residue you have there. Make sure you do not just put it into hot soapy water and let all that grease go down your drain. Tallow mixed with soap from your sink will turn to concrete in your plumbing lines. So make sure you clean off as much as possible. Whenever I'm finished with this slow cooker and I get everything out of there, I put hot soapy water in there and clean up as much as I can. And then I'm fortunate enough to take it out to a tree line and put it out at the tree line. So I do not dump it down the drain, ever. And then when I can bring that back in, and also the grinder, I use paper towel as well. But just to reiterate, make sure you clean up as much as you can of the residue before you use your sink to do your cleanup. Okay, about 6 hours later, the tallow is all rendered. I'm going to go ahead and get a bowl and start scooping this out. And I will be using my sifter here in order to catch the debris that I do not want in my tallow that I'm going to put in jars. As you can see, there's some debris here on the top from the rendering. So that'll get caught in my sifter there. And then I'll show you what it looks like once it's, I'm going to put it in a bowl because this sifter does not fit a wide mouth jar. So I'm just going to use a glass bowl to initially put it in, and then I'll put it into jars. Be right back.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just about done taking everything out of the slow cooker. There's a little bit left in there. Just want to try to empty this bowl a little bit more before I can pour the rest of it in here. And basically I just take and fill up my quart jars. You can see how golden it is. That's why it's called liquid gold. And it's just a beautiful, almost a color of ghee. And down there at the end, you can see the color it becomes once it starts cooling down. Now, when I want to get this out of the quart jar, let's say I want to do a deep fryer, I just pop them in the oven at like 175 to warm them up. And it just makes it easy for me. And I just wanted to show you, let me wipe this off because I spilled a little bit here. I just like to keep them clean as well as I can. So just to show you, here, this is the debris that was in the slow cooker. And I decided to take this small sieve here and scoop it out, so it made it easier for me to scoop out the tallow from the slow cooker. So I just wanted to show you that. So basically I just take and start filling up jars. Now if you take it right out of the heat and put it in jars, I would really recommend putting your jars in the oven and heating them up first, so you're sure you're not pouring hot liquid into cold jars. And I'll just finish filling these up, and then of course the last step is clean up. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. This is what Todd and I do in order to render tallow.